The thought of growing this community to have impact means that we are practicing within our virtual community. And each person goes back to their live community, their families, their neighborhoods, their workplaces, their actual communities, and the ripple effect happens.
Yeah.
So I believe that what we're doing in our community is affecting every single person, that each person in our community, it's the butterfly effect.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is Deborah Goldstein, an executive coach, facilitator, writer, and community evangelist whose mission is to help motivated professionals maximize their energy and live in alignment with their values. Since 2009, Deborah has coached leaders and teams through Driven Professionals, an organization dedicated to building cultures of trust, resilience, and intentional productivity. She's certified in conversational intelligence, point of value, and diversity coaching. She blends neuroscience with practical tools to help clients strengthen emotional equilibrium, reduce stress, and unlock sustainable performance. Deborah is also a recovering restaurateur, which we're going to hear a little bit more about in a little bit. But thank you so much for coming to the podcast, Deborah. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Rexhen, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So I wanted to start off with the beginning of your coaching business. When talking about Driven Professionals, it's not all about coaching, but we like to focus on coaching. It's been around for almost 13 years. What inspired you to start this business and do coaching as well?
What inspired me to start Driven Professionals was I had owned a restaurant in a former career, and it was a dream of mine. And when I decided that I couldn't have a restaurant and a love life at the same time, I chose to close my restaurant and pursue the search for love. And I recognized that since I wanted to own a restaurant since I was 10 years old, most people know what they want to do when they grow up. And I knew what I wanted to do. When I closed my restaurant, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And as I pursued some different avenues, I recognized that I have some skills that are transferable, which is I saw people dine in dining experiences. I saw how badly they used business dining opportunities, and I understood the back of the house of restaurants. So I started a offering called strategic dining. And I started knocking on corporate doors, marketing people, accountants, lawyers, bankers who take people out for meals. And I started strategic dining. And so I started in facilitation, and it grew and grew. People asked me to do workshops about networking and executive presence and confidence building. And so I decided, oh, this is something I really love to do. I've always been of service, hospitality, and now I'm in service. And to get to your question about the coaching piece, when I started to get contracts with corporate clients, I wanted to build out my offerings. So kind of like Kellogg's cereals, they want to make more and more brands, so people are more likely to choose more of their brands. I decided coaching would be a great add-on to the facilitations and the workshops that I was doing.
And with almost 13 years of this business, I wanted to learn about like when you're going through the coaching journey with your clients and working through it with them, what about it do you find most rewarding?
Ooh, well, there's a micro answer and a macro answer. So in the moment, there's nothing that makes my heart soar like being in a session with a client and all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and they get something and the whole energy changes. So that is like instant gratification. The longer term reward is a lot of my coaching clients I'm still involved with. Maybe not as a formal relationship, but more of a mentoring, keeping in touch with, and to see how they've embodied what we've talked about, how they've embodied their commitments, and how they continue to evolve and blossom as magnificent people and professionals really lights me up. That whole service, I'm at service, hospitality, and I love seeing that as folks are evolving.
Yeah, that's great. It's actually what drives most coaches that I've interviewed too. I want to dive a little bit deeper into the ideal client profile. So, like I mentioned, we might have some of these people that are also listening in the podcast. So, how would you describe the ideal client profile? Is there a certain industry, demographic, psychographic? Do they have some common goals or other commonalities?
I think that the commonality actually represents the name of the organization that I started, Driven Professionals. People who are motivated and willing to do the work to step out of their comfort zones to step into their potential. So it takes some courage, it takes some humility, and it takes hard work and stick-with-itness, if that's a word. And those are the people who tend to want to coach with me. It's the willingness, and for people to recognize that they have agency, because I don't know about you, but often potential clients don't think that they have agency. And we do have so much agency over how we live our lives.
And when think about that, how is it like for them to work with you? So is there a certain, like, can we dive a little bit deeper into like the programs that they go through? We were talking earlier too, there's group coaching, there's one-on-one coaching. Could you explain how that works? How is it like to work with you?
I will explain. Let's start with one-on-one coaching, and we can go to group coaching if you'd like. But the places that I start most of my engagements, no matter why people come to me for coaching, is helping people understand that words create worlds. And this is Judith E. Glazer was one of my mentors. She's the founder of Conversational Intelligence, which I think of as the neuroscience of conversations. And the fact is that we say words with others, and we also talk to ourselves all the time. And I'll say, when I'm in a situation and I'm being cruel to myself, my inner critic is coming out, I'm not speaking kindly to myself, that affects how I show up. That affects my nervous system. That affects my neural pathways. So for me to start with my clients, helping them understand automatic negative thoughts, those shoulds and need tos and have tos that people say without even recognizing it, and helping them reframe to positive automatic thoughts. I choose to is my favorite. I choose to get to, I will try. That is the first shift in people being able to talk to themselves in order to transform, for transformation.
And how long do you think it takes for them to see meaningful change?
Well, it depends. Funny enough, when it comes to these ants and pats, automatic negative thoughts and positive automatic thoughts, funny enough, when people have children or a spouse, it happens more quickly because I invite them to invite their kids or their spouse to point out when they say those shoulds and need tos, because we say it so often, and often we don't recognize how we say it. So to have a child say, "Mommy, you said should again," people learn very quickly to stop the shoulds and start the choose tos and cans.
Interesting. That is so interesting. And right now, and this is a question that maybe also other coaches are going to find useful, and it goes back to the business. When thinking about your clients right now, where do they find them, or where do you find them? Is there a certain marketing channel that is working really well for you?
Well, I find clients, or if clients find me, in a few different ways. Since I entered corporate America in 2009, I've been dedicated to networking. And I'm not necessarily talking about going to networking events. I'm a proud introvert, and networking events are kind of like pulling teeth for me. But once I meet people to nurture those relationships, I think of networking, your network is more valuable than your net worth. So that is the foundation of, if you if I call it marketing channels, that would be the foundation, is consistently nurturing relationships. And now it's been quite a while. I have 125 calls at a cadence to keep up with my important network colleagues. So that's one area. The other couple of areas that I find clients or clients find me are the organizations that I work with or used to work with, that coaching packages. So that is expanding my offerings. Every time I used to find a new organizational client, there was an opportunity for coaching. Referral sources, I'm pleased and relieved to say that my clients often recommend me to their friends, their family, their people in their sphere of influence, people in their workplace. And then I do coaching contracts. So one of my certifications is in diversity coaching. They were Coaching Diversity Institute. Now they're the Institute for Coaching Innovation. And I've been really fortunate to be able to work with these phenomenal people on their contracts. So I guess there are 4 different marketing techniques I use.
Yeah. And like I said, networking is actually a very big part of it. And there's also, I believe, a lot of referrals too, like past clients that also refer new clients. Right? Oftentimes is not seen as a marketing channel per se, but it is very helpful. So the next question I think you'll find interesting because of your work that you're doing right now. Looking to the future now, for the next 1 to 3 years, do you have any specific business goals that you're working towards?
Yes. The beginning of this year, I started a community called the Driven Community Laboratory. And this has been my obsession since January. We started off with a little test last year to determine if virtual community was going to be attractive. And it was attractive. So we are working to build this Driven Community Laboratory, which is a co-created community of practice where people who are interested in personal and professional development come together and they work on themselves, but in community. And it is just like the restaurant business was a legalized addiction. This too has become a bit of a legalized addiction to me because the idea of co-creation is powerful. And we are doing the work to co-create this community.
I love that. And that is what we've seen too. So we do have a community too. We've seen power not only in having this community, but also, and the co-creation that you mentioned, oftentimes we do these retreats with our community as well. So we get to meet with them in person. We did one in Tulum in Mexico in May. We're doing another one now in Phuket in Thailand, and just like to connect. And there's just like a group of coaches who have similar goals, want to grow their businesses, and they're in paradise, but also making progress with their business. So it's like, it's beneficial for both ends. And we've seen the ability to be working in these retreats so powerful, especially having a group, and they will be helping each other, and just like that co-creation that you just mentioned. So yeah, it's really powerful. So right now, when doing that, when thinking about building this community, where do you see the challenges? Do you see any challenges in building that? Is there any bottlenecks you're going through or anything like that?
Probably the biggest challenge is myself. I'm my own worst critic. I like to say that the biggest roadblock to the life that you'd like lives between your 2 ears. It's your own brain. And I will say that I am Driven's best client. So it is recognizing that padam, slowly, step by step, baby steps, we can build this.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest challenge right now is reminding myself that we're on the right path. And I'm a big believer in sustainability. I think that you read that in the introduction. So sustainability means creating the infrastructure, creating the groundwork, and really building from the foundation up. And this is what we're doing right now. We are where we're supposed to be. And my impatience and my inner critic and a whole bunch of other things get in my way. So if I can meditate every day and exercise every day and remember that we're on the right track, especially because this is co-created. It's not me telling. It's people coming together, the wisdom of the crowd, deciding on our ways of working. I call them our wows, and deciding how we're going to communicate. And learning together is powerful if I can stay in my seat and remember that things that are meant to be sustainable don't happen overnight.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's not easy either. And making it sustainable makes it even more complicated. So yeah, for sure, good things don't come easily. And so to go away from the topic just a little bit, one question I wanted to ask you, and this will be helpful for my research as well, is when it comes to investments you've done, what have been some investments that you feel really good about? Either you learned a lot or got a good return from? And what have been some investments that you feel like you probably should have avoided, or like bad investments in a way, if there's any of those as well?
Let me start with the bad investments because I'm a big believer that no matter the situation, no matter the investment, if I want to, I can learn lessons. So maybe it's silver linings, maybe I'm the ultimate optimist, but when I invest, it is a matter of what I can derive, no matter how the experience happens. So having said that as context, amazing investments. Probably the life changer was conversational intelligence. Judith E. Glazer's work to recognize how we are able to build trust based on the words that we use. It has also led me to a community of coaches in Europe. So I'm part of the European Collective of Conversational Intelligence where we work together. You know that coaching can be a lonely business.
Yes.
We work together. We are supportive of each other. We have peer coaching groups and book discussion groups and all of these beautiful opportunities for us to work together. The other beautiful investment of time is one of my masterminds. We have been meeting since, I think, 2017. And from that mastermind, two of the people in the mastermind have books now. I am building this community. It is a place for us to feel safe to proverbially get onto the floor in fetal position and say, no, no, no. So it has been a wonderful investment and such a supportive community for my growth and for my ability to be courageous, to be leaning into the scared in order to persevere.
And this mastermind, what was it called? Because you mentioned the European one, and
This is a mastermind of coaches. I call it the Dream Team Mastermind, but that is not that formal. It's a few coaches from conversational intelligence. We got together, I think it was 2017, and we meet once a month on Friday. Then once a year, we get together in person and we hold space for each other as we're dreaming. And then we hold each other accountable. And when I say accountable, I think of accountability as we belong to this group. So my coming and saying, I did this, is my contribution to the promises that we've made to each other.
that is beautiful, and that brings back the power of networking, because I believe you met these people within that community in Europe, and then you created this mastermind, which is like unofficial, and it's so nice to have a group of people where you can speak in like a safe environment too, and talk about, because there's not a lot of people you can do that with, right? You cannot do that with everybody, so.
You're absolutely right. If it's not people from this community of conversational intelligence, the neuroscience of conversation, understanding how to build trust, if we can't do it, I would be worried.
Yeah, yeah. So my final question to you is, many coaches are driven by impact. And in your case, I believe you're also driven by impact and wanting to make a change in people's life, wanting to make change with many people, actually. And a lot of coaches want to scale this impact. Is there any advice you'd like to give to the coaches that want to scale their impact, and could potentially be an advice you give to yourself too?
Thank you. Yeah. I do give myself a lot of advice. I would say, as far as an offering for coaches about impact, the first thing would be for them to define for themselves what impact actually means. Because like I like to do a exercise with clients when they say, I want to be successful or I'm not successful. When you ask what success means to somebody, every person that you ask will have a different definition. Similarly, if you ask what impact means, coaches would come back with different definitions. And once a definition is teased out, what impact is, what does it look like, what does it mean, what does it sound like, it can lead people, especially when they're in touch with their values, to making greater impact. For me, myself, the thought of growing this community to have impact means that we are practicing within our virtual community. And each person goes back to their live community, their families, their neighborhoods, their workplaces, their actual communities, and the ripple effect happens.
Yeah.
So I believe that what we're doing in our community is affecting every single person, that each person in our community, it's the butterfly effect.
Absolutely. And even in our mission, because we have a community of coaches, so like if we make an impact with coaches, they're working with so many clients. Their clients often happen to be leaders of big companies. These companies have employees, they have their team. So it's kind of like that ripple effect, just like you mentioned, it's like ripples off. And our mission is like to be able to impact 1 billion lives. I know it seems like a big number, but again, because it ripples down to it is possible. And so, yeah, Deborah, wanted to ask you about the community as well. Since you mentioned this is something you want to focus on for the future, how does that start for someone?
It starts with what we think of as an orientation to join our community, which is really about giving people a common language, people understanding that they have agency. And we look at our human architecture. We look at our 5 energy sources and recognize that we have agency to keep them full and also recognize when they're depleted. So our 5 energy sources are physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and social energy. And unbeknownst to us, there's certain things that fill us up and there's certain things that drain us, especially when it comes to emotional energy. That's like the silent but deadly one. So once we recognize how our emotions really are the captains of our lives, this is what Vincent van Gogh says, the little emotions are the captains of our lives, and we obey them without even realizing it. So when we dig into these 5 different energy sources and recognize where we can keep them full, recognize what depletes them, and recognize how we can more quickly fill them up, that's where we begin. So after this 4 workshops that we call Driven to Wellness, which is the orientation to our lab, people understand that they have agency, which means that the people in our community, they're not energy vampires. They're not emotional vampires. We all recognize that we have the agency. If we have the will, we have the agency to make our lives better.
Wow. It's just like, as you said, I kept thinking about that quote that you just said, like, emotions are the captains. What was it? Emotions are the captains of our lives, or?
We obey them without even realizing it. So think about it, Rajam. When you walk into, you've had a fight with your girlfriend and you go to a meeting, your emotions, unless you are great at priming yourself for that emotion, for that meeting, seep in. We don't even recognize that when I have a little tiff with my guy and I'm speaking with you, that there's a little bit of edge on me unless I'm intentional about washing through that, like closing that cycle down of can't he get it right? So yeah, emotions are really fascinating and interesting. And I love working with people to help them regulate their emotions because that really is the Jedi mind trick of life, right? When we can emotionally regulate, we can do so much.
Yeah, and we just also covered this. We covered this on the intro as well. We talked about emotional equilibrium. So now that's making a lot more sense to me. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your time today and coming to our podcast. This was great for anyone who's listened. If they want to connect with Deborah, they can go into LinkedIn and look up Deborah Goldstein. They'll be able to find your profile, and they can also go into drivenpros.com. I believe that is the website, right?
Yes, it is.
Cool. We'll put that in the description as well for people to click on it easily. But is there any other way people could connect with you if they wanted to?
I think that those are the two best ways.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you for coming to our podcast.
Thank you, Rexhen, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.